So a teacher of mine, David Wolpe, Rabbi Wolpe in Los Angeles, California, shares a story of a teacher of his who was at the JTS, the Jewish Theological Seminary, and he's walking with his teacher, Rabbi Zucker. And I guess Rabbi Zucker was known to be a little bit of a curmudgeon, and he was walking with one of his students, and he said, this year's rabbinical students are like the worst rabbinical students ever. They're worse than last year's students. They're worse than the year before students. To which the student said, I don't mean to be disrespectful, Rabbi Zucker, but you say this every year about the students. He says, yes, but this year they're so bad, they're worse than next year's students. And when you're dealing with Israel, it's kind of easy to feel like Rabbi Zucker described that this is as bad as it could be. It's worse than it was before. It's worse than it could be next year. At least that's how it feels. And it's been emotionally draining for those of us who are Zionists, which are hopefully all of us, to watch the roller coaster of the past few weeks and months, and the highs and the lows and the rallies and the intensity and the fighting, both physical and verbal, waging wars of PR. And it's tough. I gave a talk last week that was a bit of a downer. It was a bit of a post-war kind of honest moment in checking in. And I got an email saying, Rabbi, that was a big fat downer, your talk. You have to have thick skin to be a rabbi. And I thought about it. And I thought about my job is not to be cheerleader. I'm not here just to get everybody's ruach going all the time. It's time and a place for that. There's other times to tell truth. And truth is not always fun. People don't always want to hear the truth, but it needs to be said. But with that being said, I heard what they had to say. And I thought about Emily Dickinson, who wrote a beautiful poem about truth. It's called Truth on the Slant. Tell truth, but tell it slant. Success in circuit lies, too bright for our infirm delight. The truth's superb surprise. As lightning to the children eased, with explanation kind, the truth must dazzle gradually, or every man be blind. Sometimes truth is too overwhelming and powerful to stare at. Teacher of mine, Dennis Prager, says, why do we equate evil with darkness? Actually, evil should be equated with light, because you can look at darkness. You can't stare at bright light. At the bright light of evil is sometimes too overwhelming to stare at. You'll go blind, you'll go crazy, you'll go mad, you'll become depressed. So we have to deal with truths and with evils, which is unfortunately a truth in the world we live, but maybe on the slant, maybe a little more indirectly, maybe a little more tempered and qualified. Because otherwise, we burn out, and we burn up, and we lose hope, and we can't afford to lose hope. So Dennis Prager tells another story about Israel. Any of you who've lived in Israel can empathize with this. Israel is known for its bureaucracy, but it's light years now beyond where it was a few decades ago. I mean, coming off of its socialistic beginnings, a lot of those hangovers, it's a bureaucratic nightmare to get things done. So somebody moved to Tel Aviv back in the 60s or 70s, and they wanted a phone line. So they went to Bezik, the national telephone company, and he said, I need a phone line. No problem, we'll be out in a year. A year, said the guy. I have to wait a whole year? That's what it's going to take, a year. Can I hope that it'll come sooner than a year? Of course you can hope it'll come sooner than a year. So it's going to happen sooner than a year? No, said the man. Then why'd you tell me I can hope? Because you can always hope, right? There's always hope, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen. That's the Jewish message. Is it going to happen, peace in our lifetime? I don't know. I'm not a prophet, but we have to hope. We must hope. There is always hope. And as Jewish leaders, and as Jews, and as Zionists, we cannot afford to lose hope. We can afford to lose world support, and we can afford to lose UN support, and it feels like we did once again lose UN support this week. With another round of blows if you're a Zionist. We can afford to lose the fight in the press. We can. We can afford to lose the mainline Protestant churches and university settings. I hope we don't lose all of those things, but we can afford to lose it. What we can't afford to lose in regards to Eretz Yisrael is hope. If we lose hope as Jews and as Zionists, then it is game over. And that's why, brilliantly, our national anthem in Israel is Hatikva. It's called the Hope. As long as the Jewish spirit is yearning deep in the heart, with eyes turned toward the east, looking toward Sion, then our hope, the 2,000-year hope, will not be lost. to be a free people in our land, the land of Zion, of Jerusalem. And that's what this week's Torah portion is about. When we lose hope, we need to turn to Torah, to anchor ourselves in hope. Because this week's Torah, you would think there was no hope. Last week, it was 2 weeks ago, Jacob set out on a journey, running away from home, Vayetze. His brother, remember, wanted to kill him. Esau wanted to kill Jacob. Why? Because Jacob stole the birthright and the blessing, and he fled from home, and you would have thought it would to never be seen again. And he spends 2 decades away from home. And as a reader, you assume he's given up all hope of reconciliation. But if you assume that, you'd be wrong, because in this week's Torah portion, he packs his bags and he heads home. And there's this profound moment when you realize that Jacob is a hopeful individual. He has never lost hope, even if we, the reader, have. He's preparing to return home after 2 decades. He's not an idiot. He's a pragmatist, right? He prepares his family in case Esau is still upset, in case Esau still wants to kill him. We read the following. As Esau is preparing to meet him with 20,000 troops, you can only assume the worst. And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau came, and with him 400 men, and he divided the children, into Leah and to Rachel and the 2 maidservants. So what is Jacob doing? He's strategizing his military response, his defensive posture, and he put the maidservants of their children foremost, and Leah and her children after, Rachel and Joseph in the back part, and he's strategizing, and it's an unfortunate, sad thing to have to do, but he's prepared to lose everything if need be. However, that's not what happens, because as he continues to approach Esau, he continues to approach him with hope, and what happened? Esau comes running to him, and in this dramatic moment where he could either pull out a knife and kill Jacob, he does the exact opposite. He runs, it says, and he embraces him, and he falls on his neck, and he kisses him, and they both wept together. Right? It's a beautiful idea that after 2 decades of being at one another's throat, if not physically, then emotionally and spiritually, anger and resentment and grief and heartache, in this moment, in this one moment, because both sides never gave up hope, they were reunited. Jacob and Esau, right, were reunited because of hope. And you look at the great moments in the Torah, and they're real moments. These are men and women who are real. They lose hope. Read about Abraham and Job and Jonah and Jeremiah and Elijah and even the mighty Moses. These are great men who lose hope, but they always regain their hope. They always find their hope and start moving forward again, even after their lapse, even after their loss of hope. In fact, that's why all of our prayers end in hope. If you look through our prayers sometime, look at Aleinu. It ends by saying, God will reign, right? There is hope. Don't give up hope. Look at the end of the Kaddish and the Amidah. Oseh shalom bimromav, right? There will be peace. God will bring peace. We will bring peace to the earth. Yigdal, right? Adon Olam. All of these prayers end with the same message. It is a Jewish message. It's the mantra of our people, Hatikva, that we must never, we will never give up hope that Jacob and Esau will be reunited in this world, in this time. Let me end with something very beautiful that I found. A reading about a man named Yoni Cooper. Yoni recently immigrated to Israel and is currently serving in an elite combat unit, the Paratrooper Brigade. And I'll end with this so the Ruach Rally Band knows. I stand at attention facing the Kotel Hamaravi, the Western Wall, writes Yoni, as the army ensemble begins to play. Only a few weeks ago, I enlisted in the Paratroop Brigade of the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, and I stand among hundreds of other new paratrooper recruits for our Hashba'ah, our official introduction into the Army. We pledge our allegiance to the state of Israel and swear to do anything and everything in our power to defend her. We begin to sing Israel's national anthem, Hatikva, the hope. I imagine my ancestors singing this anthem in times of helplessness and powerlessness, hoping for the creation of a Jewish state in the land of Israel. Od lo avda tikvatenu hatikva bat shnot apayim. We have not lost our hope, our 2,000-year-old hope. The words of our anthem speak to me as I stand with my fellow inductees. I am a part of a Jewish army. Tonight is my responsibility to ensure our Jewish state exists. Tonight, our dream is alive. My hope is renewed. Together, we pledge to make that hope a reality. Hatikva, the hope that our children will not hear the words Kassam and Katusha, rockets. Hatikva, the hope that our enemies will be defeated. The hope that I will serve more as a peacekeeper than a fighter. I do not sing our anthem passively. I become an active participant in our fight, that we may never lose Hatikva, the most important fight of all, that we never lose this sense of Liot Am Chovshi Be'artzenu, to be a free nation in our land. May Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel, and Bnei Esau, the children of Esau, find a way to come together and to unite. May they find a way to reclaim those sparks of hope, transforming those sparks into a flame, the flame into a fire, the fire of shalom, of peace, as it sets forth across the Middle East. My prayer is that none of us, no matter how bad it gets in our personal lives, in our communal lives, in our national lives, and in the land of Eretz Yisrael, may we never, ever again give up hope. Hatikva.